column.
Mm.
I find it difficult to overcome noise distraction when trying to meditate. I use earplugs, but I know that it is not the right way. Please advise. Yes, it is not the right way. It would be good to just acknowledge the noise and acknowledge the anger or the feelings of disturbance that arise due to that noise. We always have around things that we don't like, and we have to deal with it. So be mindful on the disliking that is arising when the of course, first you sit there and the noise is there and you say hearing, hearing. Then you will note a feeling of distraction or of anger or whatever arises. So you note that by saying anger, anger. And by doing so, you learn to slowly accept that there is noise around you. It sounds weird now when you don't have the experience that it would be possible just by saying anger, anger, or by saying hearing, hearing, that you would be able to accept it. But this is what actually happens. So just give it a try and take off the earplugs and deal with the life as it is. Deal with reality and note it as it is.
Yep. Just some anecdotes. I mean, that's the answer. But when I first started practicing, I got lots of crazy stories because I had no clue what I was doing. And so I thought when you acknowledge hearing, the sound is supposed to disappear no matter what sound it is. So they were doing construction and they had those cement mixers outside of my kuti. And I was intent upon making that sound go away. I got such a headache because of that. The real answer is, to put it bluntly, do sound meditation. Look at it a different way. Stop looking at it as getting in the way of your practice. I think you already, if you've been following, you already know that. But sound meditation, see sound meditation as a valid meditation object. Obviously, the problem is that we have preconceived notions of what meditation should be. It should be some spiritual thing that you start floating on cloud 9 or whatever cloud it is. Cloud 9, is that it? Yeah. And see angels and butterflies and music tinkling in the background. And so you tend to blame people. You say, don't you understand? I'm trying to meditate. No, which means you're trying to get up to cloud 9 or at least cloud 8. And where are the butterflies? Where are the tinkling and the waterfalls and so on? So people even put on this nature sounds in the background because they think that's meditation. That's not meditation. That's delusion. It's pretending. It's like putting on a show for yourself. It's not reality. Reality is seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, and thinking. The noise is as much a valid object of meditation as the stomach or the breath or the Buddha or anything. In fact, it's at that moment it's far more valid. It's what is there. It's what is occurring. And so it really, you have to be clear in your mind, and we all have to be clear, and we have to make it clear to people what we mean by meditation. This is how I started that booklet. Now I probably didn't do the best job, but tried to make it clear. When we talk about meditation, we're not talking about a drug. We're talking about medicine. So medicine can be bitter, it can be unpleasant, but it cures you. Drugs tend to be pleasant and sweet, but have generally no purpose besides to avoid the problem, and often have harmful side effects as well. And so once you, it's amazing how simple that is, right? Because once you take the sound as a meditation, why would it bother you? You know, it's like, then you'll be sad when it goes away. You're like, oh, now what do I acknowledge? Actually focus on the sound as your main object. Do that for a while. Forget about the breath. Don't say, oh, I have to get back to the stomach. When is this sound gonna go away? Take the sound as your as your main meditation object, and have fun with it. I mean, you can become enlightened with sound. I'll tell another anecdote. I was watching my teacher. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but let's say I was watching some teacher. No, because then I'm not saying something about someone. And he was explaining the six senses, as he explains to every meditator. He'll explain it 10 times a day. You have to explain the same thing, repeat the same thing over again. But at this moment, he said, okay, so for the 4 postures, you have to be mindful: standing, walking, sitting, and lying down, bending, stretching, and so on. And also the 6 senses. So seeing, when you seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, thinking. When you see something, you have to, don't just stare at it. Say to yourself, seeing, seeing. When you hear something, don't just listen to it. Say to yourself, hearing, hear. And he entered into, who knows what, in the middle of an explanation. Because he started saying to himself, hearing, hearing. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. Just sitting there watching. It wasn't a show. He doesn't have shows. He wasn't putting on any airs. And so we just sat there, and the yogis are sitting there like this, you know, kind of like, what's going on? And the rest of us are just in a bit of amazement and admiration, of course. And then came back. Wow, go practice. So totally forgotten what was going on. In a total other mode. Oh, go practice. So that was that. You can become enlightened through you can enter into cessation through the sound, through acknowledgement of the sound. You can become enlightened through listening to sound. It's a perfectly valid meditation object, because once you see it for what it is, your mind changes. You know, it's all about developing habits. Once you develop the habit of seeing things clearly, your mind lets go. The clinging disappears. We have this clinging habit, and then we have the habit that we develop. Once your mind sees things clearly, it lets go, and there's release. There's freedom. We're that close to freedom. No, all we have to do is go from this to this, and then we're free.
May I add an anecdote as well?
Sure.
I was meditating for some month in a city monastery, and there was construction going on everywhere, and it happened that it was right next to me. They were breaking down a building and building something new afterwards. And right behind the wall, right behind me, was a restaurant, and they played 8 hours of Thai pop. So I had really, and in front of me was the kitchen. So I had really sound from everywhere, noise from everywhere, and I thought I'd go crazy. It was just too much in the beginning, and I thought of running away, and then I remembered what Bhante said, that just observe the sound, hear the sound, and see the reality, and see it as it is, and see the anger arising. And I worked with it for months. And then there was, I think, the light festival, and I was sitting in meditation. I was not taking part, and I was, I think, in determination or so. And then the kuti next to me started to catch fire, and I heard somebody yelling fire, fire, but it was so far away that I later noticed that it was actually a kuti next to me catching fire. So, but that sound, all the sounds around had become kind of so, how to say that?
Inconsequential.
Yeah, not bothering anymore. So, and then when they
Harmless.
started building a new kuti because the other has burned up, they had the chainsaw right underneath my window, and it didn't bother me at all anymore. So, it's really doable when you stick with it and work with it.
Completely doable. It becomes a wonderful meditation.